Hello and welcome to another Timeless video. Today we're finally playing Doomsday, now that it's available on Arena, and I'm trying it in Timeless first, as we can potentially cast it on turn 1 of a Dark Ritual. This triple black sorcery says we get to search our library and graveyard for any 5 cards and exile the rest. So we're going to be left with a 5-card library that we also get to stack in whichever way we want, but we also lose half of our life rounded up. So this card is not for the faint of heart, but it can potentially lead to a pretty quick win if we pair it with Thassa's Oracle, which is a win condition that wants us to have an empty library pretty much to win the game. Can still win the game even with 2 or 3 cards left if we have enough blue devotion, but if we want to play around instant speed removal on the Oracle, reducing our devotion potentially down to 0, we'll maybe want to have an empty library to guarantee that the trigger still wins the game. So then the beauty of playing a Doomsday deck is constructing the perfect 5-card pile, because depending on the matchup and depending on what resources you have to work with, that might differ. But one way we can potentially construct a winning 5-card pile that can win the game on the following turn is if we put DOS Machines as the first of our 5 cards, then we get to cast it. When it enters, we mill 2 more cards. Then we get to draw the last 2 cards of our 5-card deck, and then we also discard 2 cards. And then if we put as our last 2 cards Cavern of Souls plus Thassa's Oracle, we can now even cast an uncounterable Thassa's Oracle to still win the game, and even if they remove the Oracle to reduce our devotion, we'll still be fine. So that's one card that can potentially speed things up. We also have Thought Scour, can target ourselves to mill 2 cards and then draw, so that's now 1 mana to get rid of 3 cards, and if we stacked our deck correctly, we can make sure that we draw into the Thassa's Oracle with the Thought Scour after milling 2, and then assuming the Oracle doesn't get removed in response, we can still win the game with it as well. So those are just a few of the many permutations of constructing the ideal Doomsday pile, but of course it's going to differ depending on the matchup. Then otherwise our deck is kind of your typical blue-black mid-range deck that also gets to run Lurrus as companion with a few powerful creatures like Tamio and Psychic Frog, which can also carry a game single-handedly, and there are also blue cards we can pitch to Force of Will to give us some free interaction to stop the many turn 1 combo decks in the format. Daze, if we're on the play and have an island in play, can be another free counterspell, and I also like Surgical Extraction to give us another free interactive spell to potentially stop the many Reanimator combo decks from winning the game on turn 1, so that way if we're on the draw and haven't even played a land for a turn, we have Surgical alongside Force of Will to interact with the opponent's game plan. And then Thoughtseize gives us a targeted discard effect. We've got 2 copies of Fatal Push for creatures as well. Sometimes we do want to put this in our Doomsday pile to interact with the opponent's creatures, so we can buy ourselves enough time to win with Oracle, because of course we are losing half of our life to a Doomsday. We're also losing a life to cards like Thoughtseize and the Fetch and Shock lands, so our life total's often going to be dwindling very quickly, so then we don't have much time to set up the win after casting the Doomsday. And then we mentioned Dark Ritual, perfect for setting up an early Doomsday. We also have a 1-off Demonic Tutor. This card is restricted in Timeless, but can also find a Doomsday if we didn't draw one already. And then Chrome Mox gives us more fast mana, since we're lacking Lotus Petal on Arena, so Chrome Mox is the next best thing. Can also maybe set up a turn 1 Psychic Frog, which is another powerful play. And then most blue decks in Timeless are running 4 copies of Brainstorm and 4 copies of Ponder to give us some nice card selection, especially important in a combo deck like this, and we can use our fetch lands to shuffle away any unwanted cards. And yeah, the mana base is lots of fetch lands, the 1-off Cavern, 3 Watery Graves, Undercity Sewers, and then 1 basic Swamp and Island, in case we want to preserve our life total or play around a Blood Moon effect. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play with a turn 1 Doomsday, potentially, facing an opposing Lurrus deck. I mean, this could be worth a try. I'm not going to be able to win on turn 2, since we're going to be short on mana. But yeah, maybe this is worth a try. Immediately Doomsday. So then we need Thassa's Oracle and a lot of blue sources in case they strip mine me as well. So then Watery Grave, Islands, maybe another Watery Grave, and then yeah, counter spells aren't all that important. Against a Lur's deck, I may want Fatal Push just to have some interaction. And I could also put a Thought Scour into the mix if we want to speed up getting fewer cards in the library. Could put a Tamio in the mix, which also adds Blue Devotion. So those are all considerations. Yeah, I don't think it's Force of Will. Thought Scour is tricky because I don't actually have blue mana yet. So yeah, maybe it is just a Tamio here. So then first I want to draw the blue source. Oracle is fine to be last. Question is if I want Fatal Push or Tamio first. I'll go with the Fatal Push. And then I can always ponder into the push and cast it. Okay, opponent's on energy with a Guide of Souls. So then I think I'm happy drawing with a ponder. And then we'll draw the push. And then next turn Tamio is fine. And then I can hang on to the push for now. If a Jani shows up, that might be worth removing. Since we are at 10, so we don't have infinite life to work with. It's going to be another Guide of Souls. In that case, I'll answer the first one. Play Tamio. I don't really need to worry about counter spells in this matchup. It's mostly Strip Mine I'm worried about. So I'm fine just running out Cavern of Souls here. Could have also named the Wizard actually, and then just used Cavern to play Tamio to represent blue mana. But yeah, we could have put Oracle one card further up, but then if our opponent has a bunch of removal, and I don't end up with any devotion with one card left in library, we would not win the game. So now what I can do is attack, get a clue, shock in the Watery Grave, and draw into the Oracle, and then cast an uncounterable Thassa's Oracle with no cards left. And that'll do it. Awesome. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play. We have Tamio and Frog. No second land, but we do have a couple cantrips. So I think this is still worth trying. A Light on Interaction. So if I knew for a fact that we needed a Force of Will, I could also try and find one. Devour of Destiny points towards Eldrazi instead. So my main concern would be a Chalice of the Void on one of their 2-mana lands. And yeah, that card's going to be good against me. So I could try and find a force to stop it. Or I can just resolve a Tamio while I can, and then hope to draw land for Frog next turn. If not, we'll take it one step at a time. If they don't have the Chalice on one, I get to attack, maybe transform Tamio with a Brainstorm. A Utopia Sprawl for a bit of mana acceleration. Okay, so Tamio attacks. And then I will Brainstorm, hoping to find a fetch land. Which we did. And then we've got Ritual for Doomsday. So I've got pretty much all the pieces I need. Tamio transforms, gets to plus. And I could already Doomsday now to play around a Thought-Knot Seer. Okay, so then what do we want in our remaining deck? Thassa's Oracle for sure. just to be safe, Cavern of Souls. And then if they do go for a Thought Knot Seer, like a Fatal Push off a Clue token enabling Revolt could be useful. Could also go for one extra land in case of a discard effect. Could also try and go for lethal next turn with a Thought Scour. So then I can Thought Scour. I guess I don't have the mana to play Oracle, since I can either draw Thought Scour or I can draw the land. But yeah, I guess something along these lines. So then I can draw Thought Scour for turn, or I can just draw like a Chrome Mox. So then I can sack the Clue, Thought Scour myself, but then I would run out of cards. So yeah, it's not entirely clear. Maybe draw the Fatal Push first. So I can go drawing to Chrome Mox and then still Fatal Push with a Clue token. And then I guess Thought Scour could also target my opponents. I could also draw the Oracle first. And then if they don't have instant speed removal, we can still win the game with it. So yeah, what's the most likely play that the opponent has next turn? I would say Thought Knot Seer, take away a card. So then with Chrome Mox into Fatal Push, we end up drawing the Oracle. And then I can play the Oracle to win the game. Yeah, I mean, something along these lines seems fine. But you can spend a lot of time thinking about this. Can also just play a Psychic Frog. So yeah, there's the Eldrazi Temple. And do we see Thought Knot Seer? We do not. Just a Talisman. Could still see a Flesh Raker. Yep. So that I can also Fatal Push. Tamio can keep plussing. So then we activate the Clue token, enables Revolts, pitch Surgical to the Chrome Mox, and cast Fatal Push. Okay, and then, yeah, next turn Oracle could just win the game. Don't expect a ton of instant speed removal out of the Eldrazi deck. Maybe they have a Dismember. Tamio does not contribute any Devotion while transformed, so that's important to keep in mind. Okay, opponent does have the Myco spawn with Kicker. Luckily gets Eldrazi Temple. Had they actually gone for Strip Mine, I would have been in a lot of trouble here. So now I don't actually have the blue source to cast Oracle until I draw Cavern of Souls. I can play Ponder to draw into the cavern, but then of course I'm not playing it now. So maybe I should have pitched Psychic Frog to the Chrome Mox instead of Surgical to have the extra blue mana, because then I could have gone Ponder into Oracle, win the game. So then I guess I just play Psychic Frog and hope they don't have another Myco spawn, because then I'm just dead. Yeah, I should have been playing around Myco spawn a bit more. And now a Thought Knot Seer could take the Oracle as well. Another Utopia Sprawl's fine. And a Devour is acceptable. Goes for Tamio. So next turn I could fly the Frog to draw a card. So I can draw into my Cavern of Souls and still cast Oracle. Could have also, I guess, blocked the Myco spawn here, doesn't matter. Okay, so I need 3 cards in Graveyard to give flying. So I guess blocking the Myco spawn last turn would have been free. Alright, the game was maybe a little closer than it should have been. But Thassa's Oracle still gets there. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. My hand's not perfect, definitely need more mana. But we have the Ponder, so hopefully that'll find some more lanes. Dark Ritual for Doomsday could also help. And at least we won't lose to any turn 1 combo decks. So opponent with a Polluted Delta. No companion, so more likely to be a Reanimator or Show and Tell. Gets a Blood Crypt. And a Looting. That's fine. Daze and Watery Grave discarded. Now Chromox could help me set up a Psychic Frog on turn 1, which I don't hate. Do I pitch a Force of Will? I mean, this still seems like a Reanimator deck, but not entirely sure. They don't seem to have a Force of Will. Yeah, maybe Daze can go. Keep the double Force for now. Chromox on blue doesn't help cast a Doomsday, but we can maybe ponder with it next turn. Opponent gets a tapped Sewers. And we get to untap. So I'll start by attacking. And draw a card. And then I'll ponder, I think. Want to hit a line drop for a turn. And then Thoughtseize afterwards, I don't hate. So I could ponder again and then still Thoughtseize. And then another Thoughtseize afterwards might be overkill. But yeah, I guess I'll still keep here. We've got a Psychic Frog drawing an extra card each turn, our opponent does not. Alright, so this Reanimator, so I'll take the Life Death. Let them keep the Ritual. So yeah, our opponent's hand is pretty poor. But yeah, at some point Entomb into Reanimate could still steal the game. So definitely happy to have these Force of Wills. Opponent setting up a flashback Looting. No scary creature in graveyard yet. And they got rid of another Life Death. And Entomb is their last card. Gonna let that resolve. Can just counter the Reanimation spell. Alright, so Thoughtseize is probably gonna get shuffled away with a Brainstorm if I can find a fetch. Otherwise we can just discard it with a Psychic Frog. So Daze and Fatal Push can go. And then I could Brainstorm again to try to draw a fetch, but I'll first attack with a Frog. So I get to dig one card deeper with a Brainstorm to try and find a fetch. There it is. Not gonna need another Doomsday, and then Thoughtseize can go. Although it's not like Fatal Push is doing me any favors. So then we can shuffle and next turn cast a Doomsday. Opponent actually top deck to Reanimate. So yeah, this is where things can get sketchy if they draw another one and I don't find a blue card. I'll keep the blue card. So then I could still Doomsday. And then plan to set up a win for next turn. So I will still potentially get a draw from my Frog. Can get Cavern of Souls as well. We already have a Thought Scour to dig a bit deeper. So I've got most of the pieces I would need. Can get some more blue cards. I don't think DOS Machines is going to be helpful if I plan to attack right now. So, yeah, I guess a Surgical could also help. So I can draw the Surgical with a Frog, and then next turn draw Oracle, and I can potentially Thought Scour first as well. Okay. Could also technically Thought Scour my opponent if I want to draw into the Oracle right now, but I don't see a reason to. Okay, so take my turn. So with 3 cards left, assuming no removal, Oracle would already win the game. But, yeah, let's see. If I Thought Scour myself, I draw the Cavern. So, unless they have a Stifle, I guess I can check for that with a Thoughtseize. Because I could still maybe counter the trigger, and then if I don't have a blue card left, I can Force of Will. So, Thought Scour myself, draw the Cavern, and then an uncounterable Thassa's Oracle will win the game. Sweet. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We've got a Ritual into Doomsday. Bit of interaction. So a promising hand. Opponent also with Lurrus. For now, Bloodstainmire. Do I go for it? Yeah, we could get aggressive here. And then just plan to play a 4 or 5 turn game with a remaining library. And hope things line up. Don't hate it. With Double Days and Force of Will, we've got some interaction. Okay, Doomsday resolves, so we definitely need Thassa's Oracle. We definitely need Cavern of Souls, and then I most likely need something like a Watery Grave in case they strip mine one of my lanes. And then, what else do we want? Yeah, I'm not going to turbo out Thassa's Oracle, so I don't need Thought Scour or DOS Machines. Maybe a Psychic Frog in the meantime can block still a blue card for Force of Will. Could see Chromox being useful if we need extra mana. If I fall behind on my lanes. So then, first draw Chromox maybe, then the land, or the land and then the Chromox, because I can still of course ponder into stuff. Yeah, this seems fine. So not sure yet which deck our opponent is playing. Bloodstainmire makes it more likely to be Mardu Energy compared to a blue deck, but yeah, there's the backstreet. Black-white with a Peddler, so that seems worth dazing. Otherwise they take my Force probably. And a 2/2 creature is also not irrelevant when we're at 9. That works. Could keep up Fatal Push. Could ponder, or we can just go for tapped Watery Grave so I can daze again if needed. If I ponder now, next turn I get the Frog. So that may be worth it. Don't think we're playing the Chromox, however. Yeah, very close call. Maybe going untapped Watery Grave, keep up Fatal Push is fine. Opponent's got the Bowmasters, which is a good card, although I'm not going to be drawing all that much. Can just push the Bowmasters itself. I'll leave them with the 1/1 token. Okay, and then, yeah, if I Chrome Mox, pitch Daze, I could still draw into the frog and play it, but removal seems pretty likely. So I think I'm better off just going tapped Watery Grave. Do I Ponder is the question. So I could Ponder into the Oracle and play it thanks to the Chrome Mox, but then I won't have a blue card to Force of Will if they just have a 1-mana removal spell. So, yeah, I'll just play this tapped. Question is if I still want to Ponder anyway. I think I wait. Should be able to take 1, and then next turn we've got the frog. They haven't played a ton of creatures so far, so it's more likely that they have a bunch of removal in hand. Another Bowmasters. Would make my Ponder uncastable, although I can still pitch it to Mox or Force of Will. So it is an interesting decision here. To force or not to force. Yeah, I think I actually force this one, pitch Daze. And then I can leave myself the option of pondering into Oracle and playing it. If our opponent taps out for a 2-drop here. Because then I don't have to worry about instant speed interaction. Alright, perfect. Amped Raptor. As long as they don't hit something important, a Guide of Souls is fine. And draw Frog. Ponder into Thassa's Oracle. I guess if they have a Solitude... No, they cannot have Solitude because of Lurrus. So this should be a lock, pretty much. Unless they have a Surgical and try a Hail Mary. Yeah, for Ponder. So this could have worked if, instead of Psychic Frog, I had Ponder as my last card. Alright. Devotion is 2, have 1 card left, so that checks out. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with keepable hands. Turn 1. Could already go for a Psychic Frog. Probably start with Tamiyo. Could actually transform Tamiyo with a Brainstorm on turn 1 as well. So we've got some options. Don't know exactly what we're up against. Opponent did take a few mulligans. Goes for Watery Grave into Thoughtseize. Alright. So, opponent goes for Brainstorm, draw Ponder. Do we want a Psychic Frog on turn 1 now? Ditching Fatal Push, which may not be all that important if they're on a combo deck. They don't have Lurrus as companion either, so I don't hit that plan. Just pitch the Fatal Push, play Psychic Frog. They do seem to have maybe a Force of Will in hand. I guess it could also be a Daze, in which case Tamiyo is still the better play. Alright, fine. I'll play Tamiyo. And then next turn we can Frog and have a leftover mana to pay for Daze. Opponent with a Brainstorm. Alright, found our own Daze. So step 1 attack. So we could transform Tamiyo if we wanted to, with the Clue token and the Ponder. Don't hate just getting the Frog in play first. And then we can pass. Save the fetch for a shuffle with Ponder, perhaps. Could also get a tapped Undercity Sewers. Alright, opponent's on the Reanimator deck. Okay, so we might see Entomb into Reanimate here. Into Death. That one I can daze. And they only have one card in hand, so they can't Force of Will me back. Ah, I see. Pact of Negation. That still works. Now I do just need to survive one attack. Opponent probably gets Worldspine Worm with Wrath and Mikey. So that's going to be 22 Trample. I can discard 2 cards. So I think they'll actually have Exaxes here. Which is a shame. Yeah. So I can discard 2, soak up 4 damage, and then still take exact lethal. If we had one more life, they would die to their own pact next turn. So incredibly close game. So yeah, Pact of Negation. Got it done. Any different counterspell would not have worked. And we fall to 0 life. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We have Doomsday, couple Brainstorms, and a fetch. Yeah, this seems fine. We have double Force of Will, so we won't get comboed out on turn 1. Opponent with her own Ponder off a Darkslick Shores, no companion. So makes it more likely that they're on the Reanimator. Enemy Mishra's Bauble. Okay. Find the Sewers. Yeah, I think I'll just play a tapped Sewers. I don't expect to want to Brainstorm on turn 1. Unless they play a discard spell, then I can maybe hide the Force of Will. Although Doomsday is also a good card. So a Thoughtseize is going to be pretty decent against us anyway. Chromox doesn't help me cast a turn 2 Doomsday. And Force of Will is already taxing the non-land cards in hand. So I don't think I need it. What I do want is my own discard effects. Surgical Extraction would be good against Reanimator. Or we can keep drawing Force of Will. So then now it's probably Brainstorm with a fetch, pass a turn. Opponent's gonna Mystical Tutor. Maybe getting an Entomb. Or a Reanimate if they already have the Entomb. And our opponent's gonna lead with Thoughtseize. Since we have triple Force of Will, there's no point in forcing this. Can just force the cards that matter. And if they take Doomsday, so be it. Opponent takes a Force anyway. And now Demonic Tutor. So they might have Surgical Extraction that they're planning to use to get rid of all my forces, but then I can just force the Surgical. Yeah, I don't think I need to force this. Next turn I get to Doomsday. And I can just keep double Brainstorm, double Force. So, yeah, I mean, if their last card is another discard effect or counterspell, that could be bad, but just gonna fetch a tapped Watery Grave. I mean, maybe I should have still Brainstormed, since the odds of finding another blue card are pretty high. But why take a risk? So then I can leave myself with Thassa's Oracle, DOS Machines, and Cavern of Souls. So then next turn I could try and go for the win myself. And then remaining cards, Surgical Extraction could matter. And I doubt a Daze is going to be all that relevant. Maybe a Thoughtseize. So we want DOS Machines, which will mill 2, draw 2, and then find Thassa's Oracle with Cavern. Seems fine to me. Alright, now we just need to survive with double Force of Will. Ideally I don't have to use both, because otherwise I'm not going to have enough cards to discard to the DOS Machines. Alright, let's try this. That resolves. And then at this point, keep the cavern. Play Oracle. And if they have a stifle, I can still force. And our opponent explodes. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a keepable hand. Good mix of interaction and a threat. Get some card draw. And then Doomsday with Dark Rituals, perfect if we find it. Opponent taking a couple mulligans. And yeah, if they're on the play, they could potentially combo on turn 1 before I have an island in play for days. And yeah, it looks to be the Charbelcher / Balustrade Spy combo deck. So then I will ponder, looking for Force of Will or maybe Surgical Extraction. And there's a Force. And then fetch land after is fine. Alright, now I feel a bit safer with Daze and Force of Will. Opponent's gonna Entomb. I think I actually Daze this, so I don't have to worry about Reanimate for a while. So that works. So yeah, opponent is on the Balustrade Spy deck if they're running these modal dual-faced cards. So then I can just fetch the sewers that's on top of my deck for now. And then next turn play the frog. So we want to find more Force of Wills, maybe Surgical Extraction could help. Chromox, I guess pitching Fatal Push is fine, since Push doesn't do anything in the matchup. So Mox, pitch Fatal Push. Play the frog. And then tapped Watery Grave is fine, keep the fetch in case we want to shuffle effect later. Probably have to hang on to the second frog, so I have another blue card. Nowadays helps with that as well. Alright, so I can attack. At the very least I can put a Lurrus in hand as well. But I guess now with Daze, a second frog is probably better, applies a bit more pressure. Could even consider a Ritual to put Lurrus in hand. Put on with the Chromox. Pitches Creeping Chill. And that's it. Okay, get another tapped Watery Grave. And then hope to find more relevant interaction. Tamiyo's not bad either, since we can immediately transform her. Reason to hold Tamiyo is if we maybe draw another Force of Will and I need an extra blue card.
Oh no! I'm late for class!
Okay, Thoughtseize is excellent. So we can see what they're working with. And Pact of Negation is scary, Reanimate. So yeah, they're just missing a Balustrade Spy in the graveyard to combo off. Probably take the Pact, because if they win on the spot pretty much. Although I guess that's not necessarily true, since I can survive the Creeping Chills and then they may need another turn to actually untap. So, I mean, the thing is, both of these are kind of redundant. So maybe I'm still better off taking the Pact, even though they may not be able to cast it. And then, yeah, I could ponder, look for Doomsday or more counterspells. Another frog I could play. Sure. So then we're drawing 4 cards per turn. Next turn Tamiyo can get back something from the graveyard as well. So yeah, they would specifically need to draw an Entomb, and then we can still buy ourselves another turn to find more interaction, and yeah, that's going to be too much for them to handle. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with what seems to be a functional hand. Could try turn 1 Frog with Daze backup, and then what to pitch. This may not be a matchup for Fatal Push. Opponent gets Watery Grave for a Ponder. Yeah, no companion means more likely to be combo. And Reanimator decks have been quite popular lately. More popular than Show and Tell. Okay, now I could even Doomsday on turn 1. But also need to make sure I have interaction for the opponent's game plan. I mean, turn 1 Doomsday doesn't sound horrible. Let's see if they have a response to the Chromox. So they do seem to have a Force of Will or Daze in hand at least. So Fatal Push can go. Yeah, Ritual into Doomsday versus cast Psychic Frog. Let's go for the big play. And then I probably want to fetch first. Because if Doomsday does resolve, I want to make sure I have the Watery Grave in play already. Alright, that resolved. So then we want Oracle, we want Cavern of Souls. May want to play around Strip Mine and get another blue source. So another Watery Grave. And then is there any way I can already set up lethal next turn? Not with my current mana situation. I guess a Chromox could help with that potentially. I can still Ponder here as well. Yeah, if they're on the Reanimator, I kind of like the Surgical Extraction too. And then maybe a Thought Scour. So, Cavern and Oracle likely at the bottom. So then I could draw the Surgical now, if I really wanted to. Yeah, maybe I was better off not taking the Thought Scour, because if the plan is to Ponder now, then Thought Scour is not going to be very helpful. Alright, so I'll keep the Surgical, and then maybe Watery Grave over Thought Scour now. Okay. So I've got Daze and Surgical to potentially fight Entomb into Reanimate. Next turn I can just cast a Frog. Okay, opponent Surgicaling the Ponder. I could Surgical my own Ponder if we don't want them shuffling my deck, but I don't think I care. So they get to see what's left. Possible I should have put a Thoughtseize into the mix. Now that they shuffle my deck, it's possible I end up drawing Thassa's Oracle before the Cavern, so then if our opponent has their own Thoughtseize, they could maybe take it away. And then Lurrus would still be the contingency, but I may not have enough time to set that up. So our opponent knows about my Surgical and goes for their own Ponder. That's fine. Don't think I need to Daze that. Watery Grave untapped. Okay, I guess I'll shock myself to play around on opposing Daze, play Frog. Opponent's gonna Brainstorm. That's fine. If it was a Brainstorm with a fetch in play, I would have been more likely to Daze it. And now under City Sewers. Gets rid of Fatal Push. Because they already had one in hand. Okay, that happens. And our opponent scoops it up. Alright, I guess they know what's left in my deck and they know that they can beat the Oracle. So yeah, we got to see this Doomsday combo deck in action. Hopefully I did it justice, because it's certainly not an easy archetype to pilot perfectly, since there's a ton of different permutations when it comes to constructing the perfect 5-card pile. The deck is also still missing a few pieces compared to other formats. We don't have any free cantrips like Street Wraith, which is a card that I would love to see on Arena at some point in the future, since it can power up archetypes like Doomsday, where you can now draw into your remaining cards after resolving the Doomsday, so you can quickly win the game. Would also be a great card in Death Shadow archetypes or in Living End, which are all decks that I've had a lot of fun with over the years. But yeah, for now, this Doomsday deck is certainly decent for the current Timeless metagame, and can also be built in a bunch of different ways. Can go a bit more tempo, a bit more controlling, and somewhere in between. But for now, this seems like a pretty solid starting point. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.